So, hey, if you're amongst the many who have the opportunity to work from home in our new reality to kind of flatline the coronavirus curve, and you may be experiencing joy that you're still working, and then on the other hand, overwhelm on how to make all this happen, especially if you have others in your environment to work around too. And so today we're going to talk about how to be productive in a new environment and how to just work effectively in a time frame that works best for what it is that you have to accomplish. Today I'm joined with my friend Beth Rebenstorf, who has been a very successful corporate gal and is just a remarkable and accomplished entrepreneur, business owner right now, and she's also a wife and a mom, and has a lot of experience on working in an office, on the road, and also from home. And so welcome, Beth. Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
And I'm just wondering, what is your first thought when you think about productively working from home?
Well, you have distractions like my clock that's going off right now. And acceptance is a really good word, especially if it's brand new. That's the first thing that comes to mind. But it was interesting as I thought about the journey of, I used to travel a lot, about 80% of the time. And so the work dance and the juggling of all the needs, I would just say acceptance and clarity on what needs to get done. Now is a really good time to take a breath and pause and think about, okay, how can we approach this? So in the early days with kids, it's very different right now, but I was working from home quite a bit, even when I was traveling. And so I think the biggest issue is kids and interruptions. And so how do you manage that? Real simple, easy thing is to put something on the door if you got kids that are coming in and out. Not that they won't interrupt, they will, but it's actually a good learning lesson for them as well to think about, kind of the marshmallow test of pausing and do I really need to interrupt right now? So if you have kids or even spouses or other people, they need a clue as to, okay, don't interrupt, I'm in the middle of something. I will tell you that a little trick that I used is, we have the earbuds now, but if you have wire earbuds, if I was in the middle of something and I didn't want to be interrupted because you're in that flow, I would make it look like I was on a phone call. It was just a little trick. I would just do this when I was really just in the zone of, I don't want an interruption right now. So protecting your focus and your flow of getting a task done, and then not having your phone interrupt you as well. Really be true to, if you were in a meeting with somebody and you were face to face or you were at lunch or you were giving a presentation, you're not going to interrupt your presentation to answer your phone or to even look at it. So that focus first is acceptance, and then there's that focus on what is it that you're trying to accomplish, get it done, and then you can take a break and address whatever it is. That makes sense?
Makes total sense. And so I was going to ask you to touch on some of the opportunities that come with the new work from home environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You've touched on how to deal with a lot of interruptions that I'm sure many of these people are experiencing, and maybe they have more that they can let us know about. But what opportunities do come to mind for you when you think about the new work at home environment based on your already experience at that?
Well, I think moms in particular were very tempted to multitask.
Mm.
So, and that being home lends itself well to that. But I would be judicious about what things. So I spent a lot of time on conference calls, and now that we're not tethered, you can multitask and still pay attention, and contribute and be in the zone. So, putting on mute, and loading the dishwasher or changing the laundry, those are really great opportunities. Not gonna lie, I love that. Even making the bed, or folding clothes, if somebody isn't seeing you, that's a cool thing to do. Now, a couple of rules for that: your phone, whatever you're using, they all have mute buttons. So when you're not speaking, we've all heard the funny stories about somebody flushing a toilet in the middle of a conference call. Just be aware of that and be courteous. Um, and then there is so that's the opportunity that you can accomplish things. The flip side of that coin is when you're not fully present and fully participating,
Mhm.
it can be discourteous and a waste of time to both parties, or if it's in a group meeting. Um, we've learned that you really only can focus on one thing at a time. Now, I can water my flowers outside while I'm listening and speaking. I can do that, and I enjoy that. But then there are other things, if you're reading an email or working on a spreadsheet, or that's not the same. So, and I think that's why many employers um, have resisted this and resisted work from home. So the advice I would give, so I come from a background of call centers where it was the cost per minute of everybody's time, and there was only so many minutes in the day on what you could do. And so many employers are coming from the I got to watch you do what you're doing and make sure that we're getting all our money's worth. And when we switched to instead of measuring the person, we call it butts and seats, doesn't mean they're going to perform well. It just means that their butt is in the seat. And instead of measuring that and making sure that your butt is in the seat for certain minutes, if you measure the work that you're doing and the work that needs to get done, change the measurement to that instead of the hours and the days. On a macro level, I see that as a huge, huge opportunity for the way that work will be managed.
Yeah, so
From
you're
our
looking
perspective,
at productivity as opposed to busyness.
exactly. Yeah, I was there. I showed up. You got to pay me. Versus, what did you need to get done today? We're entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
so I really don't care, how much time it took or what they were doing, or if they worked for 4 hours and then took a 2-hour break and played with their kids and refreshed themselves and then came back really feeling good and creative and wanting to contribute. I'm more interested in the outcome and the care that we provide, to the services that we provide. And I think that's going to change at a macro level. I think it scares employers in the traditional hierarchical setting. But I think the doors are wide open and they're not going to close again.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be a plus for a lot of people that have wanted to work from home. And
Hmm.
now they are able to experiment with that. And so we're trying to just help them maybe ramp up quicker than normal. Um, what are some things that you've put into place to be consistently productive? You talked about putting a sign on your door, maybe wearing your ear bobs so that someone thinks you're on the phone. Is there anything that you have strategically done to be consistently productive day after day, getting projects done maybe, or
Right, right.
ritually getting what you
Yeah.
need to do accomplished?
So the first step is to know what you want to get accomplished. When you go into an office, oftentimes it's provided to you on what you want to do. And I'm dealing with this with my daughter right now, who is helping us in our business. She's a competitive gymnastics coach. And of course, all of that is shut down. And there's a lot of stuff that she can do remotely, but I'm not telling her minute by minute, or every 50 minutes now do this. The structure isn't there. So if you're changing from that, being self-driven, it takes some thought early in the day versus somebody else telling me what to do.
Hmm.
And most people, given the opportunity, would prioritize work differently than somebody else. And this is the opportunity, working from home. What's most important for whatever the goal is? And if you don't know what the goal is, I would ask. Because there's a great opportunity if you're in a work environment where it is very different. They're going through the same adjustment. There's
Very
probably a lot that workers would be able to share that would be helpful that is not shared. And I think there's a great opportunity there. So what I'm getting to is just mindfulness about the work that needs to be accomplished. And then what I use is time blocking. I'm going to spend this much time on this, or the first most important things that need to get done, they need to get done before I do anything else. And so those will be uninterrupted time. Personally, I like to attack early in the morning some of the projects that get thrown to the side that I don't spend time on as the day unwinds and takes my attention to what needs attention immediately. So I prefer to work early in the morning. Just works well for me. It doesn't work that way for everybody, I think, especially if you have kids. But if you can adjust your day, even getting 2 hours in the morning, the productivity there is really, really good. And then you can adjust to calls and emails and response and conference calls and those type of things. And it gives you some time maybe to stretch out your day to give yourself some breaks. So I think everybody has a different ability to focus for time frames. You think about writers that can be in the zone and can write for hours and forget to eat, forget to go to the bathroom, they're in their pajamas and it's, 6 o'clock at night. I personally can tend to be one of those if I'm working on a project that I enjoy. Not everybody is that way. So I'd say be aware of what your healthy timeframes are. For me, I have to make myself stop. I want to get it finished. Other people, if you know that you really need a break every hour or whatever that is, then I would work that in. So being conscious, being aware, setting priorities. And right now, I think there's an opportunity, if this hasn't been done before, to have conversations with your work teams saying, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm focusing on. What do you think? Because you may think that you're doing the right thing and somebody else is expecting something else. We do that all the time with our clients and our partners and our teammates that, okay, this is what I'm doing. Are we on the same page? Are you in agreement with that? So there's some other skills that get up-leveled when you're working remotely and you're working collaboratively, but you're also working alone. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. So what I heard you say is to be conscious of your own way of working effectively. And, you have time right now to kind of figure that out because the time frame of working at home is not for sure. And then just setting priorities and realizing what projects you have to work on so that you can set up your day to attack those. And it was a good point you made about starting early. It's just been proven that we're fresher, more creative, and more focused early in the day, whatever early is for you. And that was a great insight to give that, if you can address 2 hours of your morning to something that's important and needs to be accomplished, then you can strategize the rest of the day in other blocks without just working straight through for 8 hours, as it were. I think another great point that you mentioned was to check in with your work teams, because many of you are working with teams, or you have a supervisor or someone over you that is expecting, or hopefully expecting, some types of results during this time. So it would be really important to communicate with them via email, text, voice, if you do it electronically like we are right now via Zoom, so that you are kind of in step with what their expectations are. And at the same time, you can collaborate with insights and creativity that might help the projects that they're hoping to have accomplished during this time be done maybe in a new way that they hadn't thought about before. So
I'm actually pretty excited about overall the opportunity for creativity and ingenuity. Adversity is the mother of all invention.
Absolutely.
So I would encourage, I can only imagine, I think about teachers right now who because of much of the curriculum is established, they can't use their creativity, and now they can. I know teachers are extremely creative and problem solving oriented, and if we listened to them more, we'd probably have better results. And I think that can be the same in some of the work areas. There's a great opportunity right now for people that are doing the work that know it much better than some of the management
Very
to
true.
say, you know, I just want to share with you what I've done here and the approach that I took. I would encourage people to be creative. I would also encourage, however, that the communication is another skill set of um, take the initiative to share what you're doing. It's not tooting your own horn, but somebody else who is not doing the work that you report to, they're not going to know what you're doing. And so they'll make up their own story, and fears will feed into that. But it can be easily neutralized by just saying, here's what I accomplished this week or today or every couple of days. Here's what I addressed. Here's what I learned. If you initiate that, it's a simple email or a conversation. I think any of the communication issues that many employers fear, rightly or wrongly, it's a perception that there will be a problem. And that's why we have some, you know, work at home programs where they have cameras that are watching you on the computer and that kind of stuff. You know, is that really necessary? I suppose for testing and proctoring and those type of things, sure. But I think if there's the communication of here's what I'm working on, here's what I'm doing, if that's well defined, then that really lowers the concern level. And I think there's just huge opportunity. I know for a fact, given the opportunity to be creative, you know, in my previous lives, you know, there were just amazing things that came when they were given the opportunity to be creative.
That's
So
a
I'd encourage that.
Yeah, that is a wonderful insight, Beth. To if that communication isn't in place, start it now and reach out to whomever you're working with and or for. You know, if it's a whole team or group, that you send out a group email. Just like you say, here's what I've been working on. Here's what I have accomplished. This is what I'm doing next. You know, any feedback is welcome. That sort of thing. It just keeps that line of communication going, because you're all in a different place than you used to be before, and your ability to come together and communicate is different. So take that initiative yourself to let people know what you're doing, and then also ask how you can help what they're doing. And sometimes that collaboration of thought, which we've done many times, sparks a new flame of, I didn't think of that. And then you can go off and run with it in your creative way. They can go off and run with it in their creative way, come back together and collaborate on, you know, what you've come up with. And it's pretty amazing what your results can be that way. And like you said, it reduces that fear factor. The fear factor of creating stories, which our head is great at doing, but creating negative stories, which probably aren't true, and also it eliminates that fear factor of you're sitting at home just binging on Netflix. You're not doing anything. So that's a great tip there. And you know,
one more thing about opportunity, Charlotte. Go ahead. No, go ahead. So I was just going to share, you know, there's all kinds of different work environments, but having worked in a lot of industries, I can tell you that no matter what level, it's during these times of crises and chaos that the cream rises, and whoever it is in leadership, and we're all in leadership. I look at things as shared leadership, but a lot of judgment for next steps, for recognition of the contributions and the quality of thought and the quality of the character of the person and what their capabilities are. Oftentimes it comes from times like this versus just the work that they're told to do. So it's a good thing to think outside of the narrow confine of, well, they didn't tell me what I should do. And I'm not getting any communication. So I don't know what to do. I'm just going to watch Netflix.
Right.
And they can't fire me because. Now, it's all accurate and there's nothing wrong with that, but it is also noted.
Right.
It is also recognized that mindset. That mindset is recognized. And if that's okay, if that's what you want, but if you're seeking something else and to show up differently, this is the opportunity to do it. And nobody's going to say, give you an invitation to do that. That's something that has to come from within. It has to be initiated. So there's huge opportunity in how coworkers view differently now everybody's capabilities and contributions.
Well said. And our purpose today is to help you all raise your mindset an iota or more in thinking about what your role is in this new position and what your contribution can be at a higher level. You know, you have an opportunity to impact many that maybe you never really took into play. It's not just you solitarily working at home. It's taking into consideration your whole group that you work with or serve or collaborate with. How is that all working out in addition to your personal assignments? So that's a good point, Beth. I know for myself, I do really well preparing the night before for what I'm going to do the next day. That way, that precious morning time isn't used up planning. It's already got I've already know what I'm going to start my day with. And so that's just a thought.
That's a good point.
Also, another insight that I had was just to spend 45 minutes to an hour initially, just scribbling out in a place alone, undistracted, using some thinking through on a direction question of what is the most effective way I can productively work in my new environment. And just, think through that, write that out. And if you would like some more guidance or direction in that, comment below. Be happy to set up some one-on-one time with you to walk you through some questions to get you through your own internal insight on that.
Yep. Great point, Charlotte. Here's mine from this morning.
There you go. Indeed.
Charlotte has some great information on that I encourage anybody to ask about. Really helpful.
Very helpful, yes. In all times, but especially now when you're on how am I doing? How am I operating? Am I using my total potential? What else can I do? Just lots of different things to think about. That's really great to keeping down the mind chatter of all of the disasters that our brain can concoct at this time. Beth, do you have any parting thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
Well, I was thinking about the push and the pull, and the obstacles and what you want to get done. And so this whole topic, there's two things. One is I want to get this accomplished. How might I do that? And the mindfulness in the morning and the clarity, I think, is super important. The other aspect is what blocks the productivity. And so I spent some time when you asked me to join, what are the blocks? And so that's a good thing to consider for yourself. For me, it's not completing whatever I'm doing, and then I have to come back and reconnect and reorient and where was I and what happened. And I find that extremely unproductive. So that's another little trick that I learned over the years, that whoever it is that needs your attention, and it will happen. It will be the cleaning people or the delivery people or whatever. Well, guess what? You do not have to stop right then and there. You can complete what you're working on. I'll be there in a minute. Give me a couple seconds and finish what you're doing. That would be another piece of advice so that you leave your thought process in a better place. The
Good.
same thing with the phone and all the other distractions. And so looking at what blocks you from being productive and what can you do to fix it, it's some worthwhile time that you were talking about.
Mhm.
In addition to what are the things that I actually want to spend my creative time on.
Good point. Good point.
So
Learning how to say, I'll be with you as soon as I finish this thought, or as soon as I finish this email. So like you say, you don't come back and go, where was I? What was I saying? It's completed. Now you can help them and come back to the next whatever. So
that's the acceptance. Just accept that that's the way it's going to be.
Mhm.
And then there are other skills that will invent and get better at. So where I am right now, this is just interesting. I'll share with you because for a long time, we had 2 offices, my husband and I got tired of being cooped up in an office all the time. And I actually am out in the middle of my great room because I do have the skill set. I want to look outside and I don't want to be, because I do spend a lot of time working, because the focus is there and some of the skills are there that I can be quite productive no matter what might be going on. Now, when there's time that I need it, I just go into a different room. So I have an awareness of that about myself and how I work better. That's the last thing that I would leave everybody with is accepting yourself, whatever it is. If you're a morning person, nighttime person, you need, only 45 minutes of, focus, or you're good with a 3-hour block. Whatever it is for you, it isn't right or wrong.
Right.
But knowing it will really help you adapt. And just like you solve other people's problems, this is something that's worth giving some thought on and then putting a game plan together for what's right for you.
Well said.
So.
Yes. And like you said, there's no right or wrong you,
Mm-mm.
but get in touch with who you are and
Right.
how you operate best. What sets you off one way or another. Where do you work best? How do you work best? And how do you learn best? So that if you do have to go into webinars or conference calls or even training online now, that you know how you operate best. Beth just said she can do it in the middle of the room. Some people have to go in a closed room because the distractions are too overwhelming. You know you, and you do you. We hope that the insights that were shared today will be helpful for you to fine-tune your process of your day-to-day activities so that you feel productive, you feel accomplished, and you can take it to a new level of encouraging others, maybe on your team or above or below you in your work scenario, by sharing what you're doing and helping them stay engaged in what you're accomplishing as a project. So thanks for being with us today. Thanks, Beth, so much for your precious
Pleasure.
time and
You bet.
wisdom.
Stay healthy.
Stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.